As my memoir, I wrote a book called The Story How I Slowly Died about struggling with mental illnesses. In this presentation, I am going to read some passages I wrote, and I will treat the topic of anxiety and the question if it is just an emotion. I always compared anxiety to drowning. You know, when you're drowning and you don't open your mouth until the last moment before you black out. The instinct of not letting any water in is so strong that you won't open it until you feel like your head is exploding. And when you finally open your mouth and let the water in, that's the moment it stops hurting. I'm fine, at least that's what I always told people, but these words always hide so much more. There was the not sleeping, the constant feeling of overwhelming panic that something bad was going to happen, this persistent feeling of being under threat. It felt like I couldn't breathe, like I was drowning, and I couldn't get up. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach the surface. That last moment where you finally open your mouth and it stops hurting always seemed so inviting to me. But what if I chose to not open my mouth, to not let the water in, and despite the reflex, if I would try to hold off until that reflex kicks in, I would have more time left to get to the surface, more time to get rescued. And even though it wouldn't be much time, there would still be a small chance for me. But then I always remind myself of the pain, the constant agony you feel while trying to hold that breath just a little longer, and about the part where you feel like your head is exploding. But wouldn't this little agony be worth it if in the end it would be for my survival? What if it's just agony then, but it gets worse and it is hell afterwards? Anxiety is a natural response of our body to stress. It is useful because it signals us that we find ourselves in a stressful situation and helps us to be more alert and careful. You may feel it on your first job interview, giving a speech in front of many people, or taking an important test. Everyone feels anxiety sometimes. It comes and goes, depends on the situation you are in, and is absolutely normal. However, living with an anxiety disorder means feeling this fear all the time. It is intense and hinders a lot of people from continuing their day. Things they normally enjoy, simple tasks as going out with friends or picking up the phone, and everyday things such as money, family, work, and relationships. Generalized anxiety disorder is the most common form and is characterized by excessive, persistent, and unreasonable. Excessive because the anxiety they feel is more than someone else's in that situation, persistent because it doesn't go away, and unreasonable because they probably shouldn't have a reason to be worried about. Anxiety can represent itself in many different ways, depending on the person experiencing it. Most common symptoms include feeling out of control, like there's no connection between mind and body, panic attacks, increased heart rate, rapid breathing, restlessness, nervousness, trouble concentrating, difficulty falling asleep, and a generalized feeling of fear and worry. If not treated, anxiety will keep getting worse. It's not that I don't want to be happy. Believe me, I tried. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't bring myself to be happy. I felt suffocated, weak, stressed, full of pain. I always ask myself, why did I have to be this way? It's not fair. I have people who care for me. I have amazing friends. My school results are good. But yet all I ever saw was sadness and grey. It felt like a burden on me, pulling me to the ground, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't bring myself up. Living had become this constant nightmare. I was afraid of the world, afraid of putting my guard down in the fear that I will be judged for something I can't control. Do you think I liked to watch myself fall into this hole of self-hate, shame and pain, without having any control over it? So I hid these feelings and put up a wall so high no one could ever see my pain or any of my flaws. Society told me to go for a walk, take a nice bath or do some meditation. I told them that this could not be solved by exercise or meditation. It is a disease that affected every single aspect of my life, my work, my relationships, my education. And every day, despite my best efforts to explain, I was always met with hesitation. So I created a character so strong and independent, so perfect. She was shining on the outside, showing no flaws. And so I hid behind this mask. I continued living these two lives, one for society, one for myself late at night, because that was way easier than admitting I had a problem, easier than putting my wall down, easier than taking my mask off, and easier than showing my flaws. This disease was the hell inside of me, and it ate me up daily. I felt my heart racing, My muscles tensioning, my fist clenching, pushing my nails deep into my skin. My breath started to go faster and faster. My heart was now pounding in my chest. I completely lost control. All these emotions and thoughts at once, it was overwhelming, simply too much. I kept telling myself to concentrate, so much that I could only concentrate on the thoughts telling me to concentrate. It was like there were 100 voices in my head screaming and telling me what to do. They were screaming so loud, my head felt like exploding. The different parts of me, locked in my brain, locked as my thoughts I never wanted. I felt paralyzed. At that moment, I gasped for air, but I couldn't breathe. No air was entering my lungs. It didn't matter how fast and strong I was breathing. What if I die? Went through my head at that moment. Why does my heart hurt? I need air, I need air. A panic attack is a sudden period of intense fear or that something bad will happen, following symptoms such as trembling or shaking, numbness, shortness of breath, dizziness, fear of losing control or even the fear of death, feelings of detachment, feelings of choking, nausea, sweating, chills, rapid pounding or fast heart rate, and chest pains can be experienced by people while having a panic attack. However, you don't have to experience all of these symptoms at once in order to have a panic attack. In order to be characterized as a panic attack, patients need to experience at least 4 of these symptoms. A panic attack can occur at any moment, and even worse than the panic attack itself is sometimes the constant state of intense fear of having another one and not knowing when it might occur. Some people fear their panic attacks so much that they completely avoid any situations that might trigger another one. If not treated, panic attacks can get much worse with time, and without help, they are hard to manage on their own. If experiencing panic attacks, seeking medical help should be the first step. In my story, at the end, she kills herself because the pressure and impact of mental illnesses was too much for her to handle at that moment. The moment I killed myself, I fell in love, not with the boy down the street or with the everyday jogger. I fell in love with my mother, who was sitting in my bed, looking at my old stuffed animals, remembering my little self, playing with them all day long. I fell in love with my father, who was looking up into the sky, wondering if I am somewhere up there. I fell in love with my brother, who once believed in fairy tales, but is now sitting on his school desk trying desperately to believe I still existed. Now, I know it's worth staying, and if you don't feel like you know it yet for yourself, then stay for the birds that wake you up in the morning, giving their best songs for you. Stay for the dog who loves your ear scratches. Stay for your siblings who annoy you, but would do everything for you. Stay for your parents who love you more than anything in the world. Stay for your friends who always make you laugh. Don't be the reason they cry. Stay for your soulmate who is waiting to get to know you. Stay for your pets who won't understand why you never return to them. Stay for all the people who won't get to say goodbye. Stay for the old woman across the street who waves at you every single morning. Stay because you deserve to stay. So, back to the question if anxiety is just an emotion. In my opinion, this question can be answered with just one proper answer, because anxiety in fact is an emotion, but it can also be way more than just that. In my opinion, as long as the anxiety you feel is just minimum and goes away after a short period of time, it can be labeled as just an emotion. But as soon as it has a grave impact on your daily life and doesn't just disappear like that, it is way more than just an emotion. Everyone might have a different opinion about this, so ask yourself if, in your opinion, it is just an emotion or way more.